Hello, CoinDroppers, and welcome back to the CoinDrop podcast, episode 81. After a relatively long break, we took 2 weeks off there. For us, yes, a long break for us. I mean, it was kind of weird not doing an episode for 2 whole weeks. Camera's freaking out. Come on, refocus. Hello, there we go. Camera decided it's new. It's a rookie, doesn't know what it's doing. Like we don't do this every week. Joining me as always, Tim, for the most part, almost always, most times, more times than not. And editor Mike is back. You guys saw him in the last episode before our break, where we did a kick-ass interview with Iron Taxi about exfil. So that was a great episode, I think, to wrap the year on for us. It was pretty awesome having him on the show. And Taxi, if you're listening, thanks again for joining us. It was a great time. We're going to discuss.
It was a good episode. I listened to it, and I enjoyed the conversation.
I wish you could have been there, man. I wish you could have made it.
Yeah, same here.
Yeah,
same here.
That's all right. There will be more to come. So we are going to be making some changes, and just a heads up, we'll talk about that in a minute. This is going to be a long episode. We've had a 2-week break, so we're going to give you a chonker. This thing's going to be like probably a solid 2 hours for the free side, and Patreon guys, I hope you got a couple of weeks to listen because it's probably going to be another hour, maybe more over there. We'll see what it comes out to be. But let's
if you were hoping to do your spring cleaning early, this is the time to do it.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah, do your winter cleaning now because this episode's going to run for like 3 weeks. We'll see. So how you guys been? It's been 2 weeks. Tim, it's been 3, I think, since we talked. Mm-hmm. Why don't you start? How was Christmas?
Yeah, you go first, Tim.
Oh, it was a fun Christmas. We didn't go all out because this year's been a rough one. So we just had a good time and basically spent time with friends and family, more or less. This was the first year that I got no games, no video game related anything, save for some coasters.
Nice. Coasters. Those are sweet.
I got a package of 5 of them, and that's all I got. I did get some money from some people, so I did spend some money on some games. I bought Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and Visions of Mana, and then I bought like 3 other games that were like buy 2 get 1 free, and they were randoms.
Nice.
Didn't you also get the PSVR 2 as like I think you said it was a quote unquote early Christmas present?
He did, yeah.
In like March.
Is that still in a box? Tim, is that still in a box? God damn it. Bro.
I've told myself to open it a lot of times.
What the fuck is wrong with you?
No, don't open it, because they're going to open it. You're going to be like, yeah, I can't wait to play this, and then you're just never going to touch it.
Yeah.
I will. I will. Actually, I want to say one of the games I bought somewhat recently is a VR game, and I've actually been looking. You guys remember I posted that one with the talking skull? I can't remember what it's titled, but that game looks fantastic, and I want to play it.
Yeah.
It's just a matter of doing it.
Another one that I'm seeing posted is Metro's VR type.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Originally,
it's
I think
great.
it was supposed to be a PlayStation exclusive, but now it's on PC.
Yeah, it's on. I want to say it launched on PC and PlayStation at the same time.
It looks awesome. There's so many VR games I want to play, but I can't now that I know the ProTube VR thing exists. The ProTube revolver. I can't play a single shooter until I get that now. I just can't.
Yeah.
So
there's been a lot of really good VR releases lately.
There has,
and I'm just like, I need to. I've actually been talking to someone on X that's nothing but a VR player, and so me and him have been kind of going back and forth. So he might finally push me over the edge to pull that thing out.
I still want to play the Batman game. Everybody was talking shit about it, and then it came out, and everybody fucking loves it. And I'm like, yeah, it's fucking Batman, and you get to be Batman. Of course, it's fucking. Anyways, Mike, how was your Christmas, dude? What'd you get into?
Well, Tim didn't talk about his New Year's yet, so I was gonna let him go.
All right, I mean,
his New Year's.
We're gamers. We sit here when we do New Year's. We just game. That's what, if you're not here and you're a gamer on New Year's, are you a gamer?
my wife was sick.
Look away, like, the ball dropped.
For me, my wife was sick, and so my kids wanted fireworks. But again, money.
Yeah.
But thankfully, the neighbors had fireworks going, so we just kind of hung out with them.
Nice.
So that's what we did. Yeah.
Pretty simple.
Yeah.
They were all young, and I was making all the old man references, and I convinced somebody to watch Idiocracy.
Nice.
And
oh my God.
just before the end of the year, I made a reference to Adventure Time's bacon pancakes, but it's not just Adventure Time's bacon pancakes. It's the one with Alicia Keys' New York intermixed.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't seen it, it is like they go together so great. Wonderfully. It's amazing. Yeah.
Yep.
I showed it to one of them, and they're like, "That is the best way to end the year possible." it was pretty fantastic. It really is.
Nice.
Just to digress. a little bit. In Idiocracy, they wanted, so the wardrobe people wanted to do like
The Crocs.
what they would consider, well, fucking don't get there yet.
Speed
They
it
wanted
up
to
a
do
little
that
bit.
stupid fashion, that shit that like didn't look like it was going to be a real thing. And
Yeah.
Crocs wasn't officially a company yet. It was just some people out of their garage that were molding these weird looking fucking shoes. So the actual like wardrobe people of Idiocracy got the budget to reach out to these people and be like, "Hey, we want to order like all these fucking shoes."
Yeah,
And
they
fast forward to
ordered
today.
stupid looking shoes. Yeah,
Yeah, and now Crocs is like an everyday thing.
they actually joked about it before the movie came out too. They're like, "What if these are like super popular in the future?" And fair enough.
I mean,
Plot twist.
fucking Gatorade's slogan is "It's got electrolytes." So, look, all I'm saying is Demolition Man and Idiocracy have been more right about the future than anything else so far.
Really have.
Yeah.
Welcome to Walmart. I love you.
All right, Mike, what do you got for us?
Our Christmas over here was pretty good. We were trying to come up with a way, because we live in an apartment, and my girlfriend is allergic to pine trees, so we couldn't get a whole Christmas tree.
That sucks.
But I also wasn't about to try and spend $900 on a fake tree
Yeah.
at like Hobby Lobby or something like that. So we were kind of thinking of maybe having the kids like draw like on giant poster, just like a tree, and then we would just like put it on the wall. And then someone locally to us, I guess, is trying to start a nonprofit, and they posted 2 faux trees. One of them actually has like fake pine cones and stuff on them, and it has lights pre-made and like wrapped around it already. So I messaged them and I was like, "Hey, I can come and get this like this weekend. Can I? Like, are you available to do that?" So I ended up going out there to get it, and it's like a 7.5 foot tree, and our ceiling's only 8 foot tall. So it was like, it was close. He tried to give us both trees too. He was like, "The other one's like 10 feet." I'm like, "That's not gonna fucking fit."
Bro, I live in an apartment. What? Like, we don't have vaulted
right.
ceilings.
It's gonna be like the Grinch tree, where it's just like fucking falling over.
There you go.
And then we got some gifts and stuff for the kids. A lot of like arts and crafts and some robots and Legos, magnetiles, typical kid shit.
Yeah.
Then New Year's was pretty simple. We originally didn't make any plans because we were both kind of sick. I'm still kind of sick now. She's worse. I don't know if it's like a sinus infection or what that we caught, but it's bad. And one of my friends, who I haven't really spoken to in a long time, that I recently reconnected with because her and her coworkers / friends all had something go on with like their employment at some tattoo shop. I'm not going to go into because defamation's fun. Air quoting for people that are listening. They hit me up and they're like, "Hey, we're just hanging out. If you guys want to come and like play Cards Against Humanity, play some board games, drink a little."
Exploding
So I was like,
kittens.
"Sure, why not?" Yeah, they were passed out by like 9 p.m. anyway, so we're kind of just gonna chill and not do shit.
Nice.
So yeah, that was our holidays.
Good stuff. Ours was pretty chill. Didn't do too much. Couple of gifts for the kid. Couple of gifts for us. Kid got actually a bunch of stuff from the grandparents and all that good stuff. New Year's, I played games. And talking about games, let's go ahead and transition into some news. And then we'll talk about what's on screen right now.
This is a gaming podcast. I forgot.
Yeah. Let's like I said, let's get to the content, right? Let's get to what people are here for. So first off, we're going to discuss kind of some changes that we're doing to the podcast moving forward. After moving on to our second year of doing this, Twitch has not been really worth doing for us. We've kind of like leveled out, I guess, in terms of audience over here. So we're actually going to be moving starting February. We're moving away from Twitch and we're going to be streaming on Facebook, of all places. That's going to start in February. Seems like it's a better place for podcasts. Twitch does not seem to be very podcast friendly. So we're going to be moving to Facebook. We will continue to stream here until that change in February. So we'll be streaming here next week, I believe. I think there's only one more week in February.
No, there's 3 more weeks. This is one of them. So not next week, but the following week.
Yeah, so the 25th is the last Saturday in February. That'll be our last episode here over on Twitch. After that, we will be streaming exclusively on Facebook. Those episodes will remain the same in terms of content, format, time. All of that will not change, just the platform we're going to. But what is changing is we're only going to be doing one a month moving forward. So we will do one February 1st. That will be our streamed episode for that month. And we will announce our next one for March on that date. It'll also be posted on our Discord. So if you're not in our Discord, it's a good place to know when we're going to be streaming, what we're doing, that kind of thing. This was a decision basically we all talked about earlier today. We discussed it. It's the patrons that do subscribe to us, that do help pay for this show that you're enjoying. We are kind of cutting them short by streaming these episodes before they go live audio form, even to them. So they're really only getting the Patreon exclusive because they're not really getting a day early because it's here before it's anywhere, if that makes sense. Yeah. So we'll be streaming. Go ahead, Tim.
So basically what he's saying here is we're still going to do one episode just like this every month. It's going to be on Facebook first. It's still going to go to YouTube. It's going to be the same as everywhere else. We are still going to have a weekly podcast. It's just going to be audio only. And, it'll still be on all the places you listen to. It doesn't matter where.
It'll be on YouTube as well. We will be recording those videos as well and putting them to YouTube.
They'll streaming once a month.
Yes, we'll just be streaming them once a month.
The YouTube side will be a little bit different for the other episodes, but that you'll see how that plays out, I guess. Ultimately, the podcast will still be available every week.
Yes.
Just not the video side every time.
Not the stream side, yeah, for sure. So in addition to this, however, we will be doing a secondary stream, possibly a third stream, which will be streamed some Saturdays. Again, it'll be announced in the podcast, where we're going to do kind of a community engagement thing. And it's just going to be us probably playing games. We got to figure out how we're going to coordinate that, whether we're all going to play the same game, whether we're going to be playing individual games. And the idea there is that same chunk of time that we would otherwise be streaming the podcast, it'll be post-recording, or maybe sometimes even before recording, and you guys can come and just hang out with us while we play games, talk with us, whatever you want to do to engage. And we'll be there to just kind of talk, give you our opinions on things, be more than happy to hear your opinions on things, that kind of thing. And that'll be happening on weeks we don't stream the podcast. I hope all this makes sense. I will also have Mike, myself, or Tim, we'll put a post up on our Discord that explains this layout moving forward in February. That's kind of the plan for where we're going with the podcast. It also allows Tim and I more flexibility. I'm back in school now full time, so my life is chaos. And trying to balance everything is getting difficult. So with that, though, we have to address kind of, for us, an elephant in the room. For a lot of people, this is probably not a big deal, but I recently made a Pantheon First Impressions review video specifically for one of our patrons who really enjoyed that game, was really interested in it, but doesn't really have the time to play it. And since he got it to my attention and I fell in love with it pretty much immediately, I decided I would make him a video exclusively over on Patreon, and then I moved it over to YouTube. Well, that review video kind of blew the fuck up by our definition. Our average views are maybe 100 per episode on YouTube. That one's almost broken 1,500 at this point. It's also garnished us more followers on YouTube, and maybe you're one of them listening right now. So this does kind of concern you. We recognize that is not something we are capable of doing for every game that's going to come out. We are 3 grown men with lives. We are not a corporation. We're not a company. We don't make money off this. This isn't our job. We don't have the time to invest in making that kind of content for every release. So I've decided
it's going to be an extremely rare case-by-case basis on what we can get to.
Yes.
In short.
We won't be doing it on every game, and it will for me specifically, they will never be full reviews. I would love to do more of them if possible, but that Pantheon video by itself took me 2 weeks to produce. Just from time of recording, notes, everything took me 2 weeks to do.
That's from like 10 hours of gameplay
Yeah.
review, right?
Yes, that was like 10 hours of footage that I cut together and made relevant and wrote a script, and like there was a lot of steps involved. And for those of you who have done any video editing, you know kind of what that looks like. But for those of you who don't, I'm peeling back the curtain here. I fully intend to do a first impressions of Final Fantasy VII Rebirth because it comes out at the end of the month. That review video will go live on our YouTube, but be aware that review video is going to be based off of 3 hours of that game, roughly, because I've decided for myself, if I'm going to do this, the only thing I'm capable of committing to is first impression reviews, where I give my first thoughts on the game after a good couple hours of play time. And I recognize that Final Fantasy VII Rebirth is like a 250-hour long game, so I will probably be revisiting that and making quote-unquote update reviews as time goes on, the further I get into that game. But understand that from me personally, you will never see a full, I've beat this game, here's a review for it, because in order for me to do that, the game would be 6 months old. There'd be no reason to. So that's the reality of it.
With the time that you have, it'd be like a review 3 years later.
Exactly.
Yeah. With that said from him, I do have an undisclosed game that oddly enough I'm not allowed to say that I have, because other people have said that they have one and they're gonna release their reviews on time. I don't know why I'm not allowed. I don't know. It doesn't matter. I will be releasing at least one review video. I don't know how the hell that's going to go, and it's probably going to be nowhere near as good as Russ's. But we'll see. I've never done one before, and for all I know, it'll be late. The game, I don't even know if I can say when it releases, so I'll just not.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
and then I myself also have a game. I mean, I could say it's Xfil. It's out.
Yeah.
I got a review key a little while ago, and I just haven't had the time to sit down. But that I'm more so probably just going to stream. I might post something at some point, but it might be a short form review, just something to throw on like TikTok or Facebook Shorts or something. Nothing too in depth, because I can stream it. So if I can kind of go in depth into streaming it instead of making a 10-minute video out of 2 days worth of content.
Yeah. So I just want to be upfront with what you guys can expect from us moving forward. We are still a podcast first. We will always be a podcast. We will always continue to do the podcast and make that priority. But in light of the success of this, I realize that moving down this avenue might put us in better footing to go back to big events, which ultimately is my goal. I want to go back to PAX's media. I would love to go to the VGA's media. And if this helps us get there, that is something I think is worth pursuing. So that's kind of where we're at with the housekeeping stuff. I'm sorry that did take a good chunk of time up front, but just wanted to get everything out in the air so that you guys know kind of what our plans are, where we're moving with this, now moving into our second year of podcast.
Not yet.
We're close.
The end of March.
Yeah, the end of March. But I mean, that's only shit, dude. It's 2.5 months away. It's pretty close. So there's also the potential we are considering doing a giveaway for our 2-year anniversary. We'll see what we can swing. Again, I'm back in school. Tim's busy. Mike's busy. We're all incredibly busy, broke people. So we will see what we can do. I would personally love to be able to give away a free copy of a game, a brand new game. I don't know if that's going to be realistic or happen, and more on that to come. I guess we'll
I think
leave it at
the
that.
three of us can swing $20 each. I think that shouldn't be too big.
Yeah, we'll cross that bridge when we get there.
Yeah,
Or since Tim hasn't opened it, we can just give away his PSVR 2.
There you go. Yeah, we'll raffle off his PSVR 2 that's been sitting in his closet. But let's
Since
talk
March of last year.
Let's talk about Assassin's Creed Shadows. So the game was delayed again. Not a very long one though. All right, I believe it was slotted to release originally,
5-week delay.
right? And it was slotted for October originally, and got pushed to February.
Originally
correct?
October, yeah.
Yeah.
Actually, I think it was originally September.
Was it
actually,
September?
Yeah, either that or that's when it was.
Sometime
delayed.
around Halloween.
Yeah, sometime around there. Anyways, it got pushed again, another 5-week push to March. They put out a whole thing about it, and Domino's kind of reamed them on it.
Yeah,
I thought that was really funny.
Yeah. Domino's basically said, call us if you're having problems delivering on time, which is quite the comment.
Which you gotta give
Domino's.
Yeah, go ahead.
They responded to Domino's like, "Hey, pizza party on March 20th."
Yep.
Yeah, that was a good response. Actually, AC Shadows or the AC UK version also posted something similar.
Yeah.
It was like they drew up something special of Domino's delivery boy with like Yasuki or whatever on the back of a motorcycle. It's pretty good.
Nice.
Sick.
Well, this delay, at least the first one, we actually have some footage of kind of what they've been working on, and I gotta say, I'm a little bit of spark of hope coming back from what they've shown off. The footage on screen now, for those of you who are audio listening, I apologize. This is kind of a visual podcast as well, but we'll describe kind of what's going on here as much as we can. They've made a lot of changes to combat and the movement system. And I have to say, as a fan of Assassin's Creed, I give this a thumbs up big time, because I stand by this statement to this day. Even though Assassin's Creed Unity was one of the worst received Assassin's Creeds after Jade Raymond left, it had by far the best parkour system of the entire franchise. And it looks like they're finally getting back to that awesome fluid movement. What is parkour and makes Assassin's Creed, they're going back to it. And that makes me, at least for Naoe anyway. Yeah, that makes me at least a little bit hopeful for the game and a little bit excited. But I don't know, what are your guys' thoughts?
So I've been watching quite a bit of trailers, and people have showing comparison trailers to the newer ones versus the ones that were, from November and January and whatnot. Like you mentioned, there's been a lot of updated animation qualities. They've made it to where Yasuki seems to be less of a brutalizer. He's not just going in there smashing skulls just because. He looks more like an actual samurai now as far as his movements and stuff go. Naoe is clearly way more of a finesse agile style person. Yeah, agile. There you go. That's the word I was looking for. They've also added in the ability to throw in like dodges and stuff like that with the parkour. And it like you mentioned, it looks super fluid. I'm wondering how much of is that the extent of what they've updated in the game? Is it just combat and movement, or have they made it to where, like, say back in when we talked about this game before it released and before it was initially delayed, we talked about it potentially being like a 50-50, you play as Yasuki and then some as Naoe, and they sort of told us that you can pick and choose who you want to play as. They showed us that little trailer, but we speculated that there's guaranteed to be some missions that are going to be Yasuki and some missions that are going to be Naoe. Do you think maybe they went away with that? Or, you know what I mean? Like, how much did they actually change in these past, 5 months?
Yeah, it's a good question. Mike, what do you think?
I could see them kind of steering away from that direction. I'm trying to think of the actual term. Yeah. Art choice or whatever the fuck
narrative direction, I guess you would say. Yeah.
Narrative direction, yes. I don't know. I mean, either way, I was kind of set on playing Assassin's Creed Shadows. I don't know if I'll beat it. I haven't beat any Assassin's Creed since 2 or 3.
Oh, wow. Way back.
Yeah. Yeah, way back.
4 is a great game, but it's not an Assassin's Creed, I'll say. 4 is a great...
It was super great.
It's a great game.
I got really far into 4, and then my PS3 died, so I just never picked it back up.
Got it.
Yeah. Actually, I wouldn't be... No, it's because my PS3 died because I played Skate and Skate 2 and Skate 3 so much that the thing just, cooked itself to death. I'm pretty sure there was probably entire weeks where I just, would fall asleep playing that game and not turn the PS3 on.
And now he's playing Skate 4 and not even using the skateboard to ride around everywhere. It's pretty great.
Nice.
So technically we're not supposed to talk about that, but you talked about it. I didn't, so I can't get banned for that.
Yeah. You didn't talk about it. I did.
Exactly. That's what I said.
Yeah. So shut the hell up now. So I was sold on this Assassin's Creed the moment they kind of showed off the ability to pick between the two of them, because Russ knows I'm a huge fucking stealth game fanatic.
Yeah.
And anything to do with parkour and being able to just pull a guy into a bush and just slit his throat.
And yet you still haven't played Tenchu, you fucking monster.
Yeah. I also saw a post a little while ago. I guess someone had managed to break down the animations and the fluidity and the I want to say the running, or at least the this speed or efficiency. I don't know how to describe it, but basically,
you're doing great.
Thanks. I'm fucking exhausted. The female protagonist, she's actually the fastest. Naomi, she's the fastest assassin in any of the games.
Yes.
Just like straight fluidity and running and combat wise. I also, as I'm like watching the trailer that you have up on the Twitch, I'm noticing that there's they're showing new combat stuff with her that I don't think they showed as much on the launch trailer, and it looks like she's actually very capable now and not just like handicapped in the sense of like if you get caught sneaking around, then like that's it.
Yeah. See, and I have mixed
so
feelings
I'm really looking
on
forward to that.
Yeah, see, and I have mixed feelings on that because the fact that she was quote unquote handicapped against samurai made me feel more like Tenchu. Right, like in Tenchu, if you got caught, you were fucked. Like you're going against a samurai, and you're a dude who skulks in the shadows. You don't know how to fight like they do. They know Bushido. You know farming. Like you're not. Right. You're not a combat dude. That's just not your vibe. So I got kind of mixed feelings on that, but it looks cool. Like the combat looks really fun with her. And good.
Even though they added like the dodging fluidity and the stuff, it like is still vulnerable. But not in the sense of like it would just be like that's it. Like you have no chance. You actually have to fight.
Yeah.
Honestly,
to kind of get out of that.
I'm going to say I'm a little disappointed in it too because she's like totally capable of taking out samurai, and it's not a big deal. Like sure, she's going to take less hits than Yasuke to die, but that's really about it. That's what it looks like now. Ultimately, she looks like she's a super badass and she can take on anyone who gives a shit and just dodge attacks and slit their throat with your blades or whatever. Honestly, the game looks significantly more polished than it did before, and it looks like it might very well be probably the most polished game that Ubisoft has released in probably the last 8 years. Like
just because you said that, it's going to get downgraded.
So
one of the guys higher up is going to be like, you know what? Just because he mentioned that,
just because Tim from CoinDrop said it, fuck that guy in particular.
But the one thing, if they want to downgrade like the graphics or lighting or whatever to make sure that it's more compatible with multiple platforms at once on launch, as long as they keep that dynamic weather system with like the wind and the rain and shit like that.
Yeah, that's ingrained. They absolutely will.
Super need out of what they come up with.
Yeah, the engine's been significantly upgraded for the current gen. This is the first current gen only Assassin's Creed to release. It's crazy that they're doing it over 4 years into the cycle, but the point is I mean, just right now they're showing the destruction levels in the game and how interactive it is to you as a player, and that's it's really impressive. Honestly, it's really nice, and I don't think that's the sort of stuff they're going to get rid of.
I'm just going to say,
I want to know if.
I just want to slide this in there real quick. Metal Gear Rising did that years ago on the PS3, and it looked better. Oh, yeah. But I just, that's just my piece. I just.
now I want to find a comparison video because it looks better on 2 generations ago.
Battlefield Bad Company 2 on the Xbox 360.
I could say the Division 1 was pretty damn impressive. I remember being super impressed about that. Yeah. We were going over, look at this paint can. And,
fuck, dude. Red Faction Guerrilla. Like, just, there's so many, like, niche games that did destructibility really good. It's nice to see it in this Assassin's Creed, to see it more realistic than it's been in the past, right? Because there's been some destructibility, but, yeah,
I'm not necessarily talking about destructibility. I'm just talking about the way that you can interact.
Oh, gotcha.
Even the little things. Sure. That's what I'm more getting at.
Sure.
I want to know if I'm running around as Yasuke and I kick a fish rack and a fish happens to smack someone in the head, is it going to knock them out? That's what I want to know.
That's a good question, but as long as they've got some reference to Hitman where you can pick up a fish and knock somebody out with it, I'm good to go.
That would be
just
cool.
Yeet that shit.
Yeah, just fucking yeet it into somebody's face. Just Kobe. Whatever. Insert 90s reference.
My favorite thing to do in Hitman is just to grab a hammer and just throw it at people, and that's the only weapon I carry. It's just a hammer.
That's awesome. That's fun.
So let's move this over to the aspect of this game being delayed again.
Yeah.
It's not very often that Ubisoft delays their games, especially their flagship titles that are going to sell better at the end of the year. But given the absolute decimation that they had at the Star Wars Outlaws release, and I'm going to be honest with you, I keep looking at that game at $40, and I'm like, just drop to 30 and I'll buy you. Just do it. And I've been so tempted at $40 over and over again.
Yeah.
But so far I refuse. In any case, In any case, this game, from everything I can tell, straight up from Yves Guillemot, the CEO of the company, to the CFO, and various other people, the investor calls and everything else, honestly, it really feels like this is literally it. We've said that so many times about different developers, with this game or that game or whatever, and it's never been. But this really is. It really is for them. There's been rumors of them selling or going a partnership with Tencent. There's the possibility of them just going, maybe trying to find another company to buy them. This is literally there was actually an article that released the other day, where it said, the investors grilled both Yves Guillemot, the CEO, and the CFO on a potential Tencent sale, delays, and the financial woes of the company.
Yeah,
and they are just in a really, really bad position. The Guillemot, not Guillemot, but the company, the family that owns Ubisoft, I can't remember their name at the moment, but they've been very resistant to selling themselves pretty much since forever. And now they're at the point where they're just like, maybe you all suck as management and we need to get better management.
I'm glad you brought that up, because that was one thing that I think is really important to touch on with this game. Is kind of like Dragon Age Veilguard for BioWare. This is kind of a big moment for Ubisoft, and is going to determine their course in the recent future and far future as to where they go, right? Like, we know Ubisoft hasn't done well. We know Outlaws was received very poorly, and a lot of people had nothing good to say about it. I hold my speculation because I haven't played it. I know personally that I still want to. That desire is still there as the Star Wars fanboy that I am. But from what I've heard, it has made me step back and go, yeah, kind of the same as you. If it drops to $30, I'll pick it up and check it out. They can't afford another situation like that with Assassin's Creed. And it's really kind of interesting, because if you wind the clock back to before Prince of Persia: Sands of Time came out, Ubisoft was kind of in a similar spot as to where they're at right now. Their games weren't hitting good audiences. They weren't growing. Their games were bombs. They didn't have any really good, solid IPs to hang their hat on. And then they got Prince of Persia, and things started to climb for them. They started to come up. They got Assassin's Creed, and they just skyrocketed. And now we're on the tail end of that. So it really comes down to, okay, is this going to be the game that brings them back up, or is it going to be the final nail in the coffin for Ubisoft, and we're going to see them bought out or sold or whatever the case is? Personally, what I think the biggest drawback for Ubisoft is being a publicly traded company.
Yeah. Didn't they go private recently, or did they?
I think they're still trying. They are technically still public currently. They are trying to go private, from my understanding. We've talked about that, speculated on it a little bit. Publicly traded gaming companies are beholden to stupid rules set by their shareholders, what their shareholders want. And that is not a good way to make games that are going to be loved by the people playing them. We talked about it.
They're almost always better.
We talked about Sven's comments at the Game Awards. He gave everyone, game, by the way. Yeah. But what I mean is, like, he gave everyone the formula for how to get on that stage. And I need you to ask yourself. I need to ask yourself: do you think Assassin's Creed Shadows is one of those games? Do you think it's a game that was built by a community of people who love making games, who want to play this game? And personally, for me, I think the answer is no. I think there's still too much boardroom influence in this game. Not that I think the game's going to be bad, but I don't think this game will be the hit that Ubisoft needs it to be.
So I need to go back. I want to say one thing before I respond to that. Just to give you an idea of their financial woes, literally all of the games, the 4 games they released in 2024, were absolute disasters.
Yes.
You had the Prince of Persia, what was the...
Lost Crown, I believe?
Side-scroller. Lost Crown, yeah. Phenomenal fucking game, but
yes.
they advertised it terribly, and it sold like shit. The developer was already shut down.
Yep.
We had Skull and Bones early on in the year, and that sold like absolute ass too. They canceled...
The world's first quadruple A game.
Yeah, right. Which, funny enough, by the way, the new Yakuza pirate game, it looks exactly like what Skull and Bones should be.
Yeah.
And it looks so much fucking better. It's insane. Anyways,
Capcom makes good games, man.
Right, and that's not Capcom. That's Ryu Goku or something like that. The Yakuza people. And then they canceled the division Heartlands in favor of X Defiant, which they're shutting down.
Cue rage from Mike.
And then Star Wars Outlaws. So they had absolutely nothing in over a 12-month span.
Yeah.
Which I didn't even look at what their 2023 schedule was. I don't remember at this point. But anyways, to answer your question, as far as what have they released, or no, is this game?
Do you think
made
this
by
is
people that actually care that it's a game they want to play?
Yeah.
And that's where I said I want to go back a little bit. Is a few episodes back, I found out that I think it's 50% or over 50% of the developers on Assassin's Creed Shadows are newbie developers. They've never made a single game.
Yeah. That's not necessarily a nail in the coffin for them, but it's not good either.
So that's what I'm saying. Back then, I was like, well, that's not good for a AAA game, for a massive franchise like this, where you need to have, veteran developers. But to your point about, is it games they want to make? Is it a game they want to make? I would imagine the majority of those 50%, this probably is. They're trying to do that because they're newbie developers. They're just into the industry. They still have that, golden-eyed, childhood. Let's make something awesome. At least I hope that's the case.
Yeah. To go to an old school military term, they're slick sleeves. They're sneaker weekers. Yeah. They got the bright eyes and bushy tails. They haven't been beaten down by it yet.
Exactly. And so I hope that's the case.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
You merely adopted the game industry. I was born into it.
Molded by it. Yeah.
Don't quote the donuts to me, witch. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Mike, what are your thoughts, man?
I didn't see a successful AAA until I was already a man.
What do you think? Do you think this is a game made by devs who love games, who want to play this game?
I'm kind of with Tim. I think the 50% or the majority of the 50% of new people that are actually here haven't been beaten with that stick yet.
Corporate, that corporate suit.
Yeah. The other thing that I think is what we're probably going to see after the game comes out, I think Ubisoft is going to sink. It's going to turn out that Ubisoft is going to sink or has sunk more money into this game to date than any game that they've ever released. Because, like you said, Russ, that this is it. Like, if they don't get this one, then this is it. And I think what they're doing is they're doubling down, and they're willing to spend so much fucking money to make sure that they get this one as they can. Because in their minds, I'd rather sink half of what we're valued at to potentially increase my value in the next 2 years than not sink any money into it and then just be bankrupt in the next 2 years anyway.
Yeah, it puts them in an interesting position, right? So, like, you've got the gambler's worst enemy, the fallacy of sunk costs, right? The idea that, like, if you just keep putting more money in, you're bound to win. But at the same time, if you're in a ship with the side of it's already blown out, you don't really have a whole lot of options other than to try and take the other guys down with you, right? So, like, it's one of the things I say when I have an argument with somebody. I'm not terribly proud of it, but one of my favorite things that, like, gives most people pause when things might go violent is I'll say one of my favorites is, I might not win this fight, but I'll make you hurt. And it's one of those things of just like, look, mutually insured destruction. It kind of like, Ubisoft has to make this as good as it is, and costs be damned if they don't, they're going under. And if they do, and it's a success and they go under, at least they went out swinging,
So
the other side to it is if it's a success to the point that they can buy out their investors and then go private, then that's either way. They're kind of looking at it as a win-win. Either we sink and take everyone with us, or we win and buy out our investors, and then we don't have to deal with them. So either way, they don't have to fucking deal with them.
Right? It's like when you die, it's no longer your problem,
Right. Yeah. So I sort of suspect it might actually be a little bit different, honestly. Okay. I sort of expect them. I think they're either guaranteed to sell, or, as Mike just said, they're guaranteed to go private. It's going to be one of the two. And I think that no matter what they do, if they sell, then they can say, we're done. They're going to get some sort of severance package. The people in charge that have screwed everything up, they're going to get some sort of severance package and be gone, and they ain't got to worry about it. Which for them might be the better choice because then they can just walk away and forget everything, take the money and go.
Sounds like Pete Parsons.
Right? Or the dude from Activision. I can't remember his name at the moment.
Oh, yeah. Fuck, what? Yeah, I remember calling him out on the podcast. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah. So, or they're and what they're trying to do
Kodak,
is they're trying to Bobby Kotick. Yeah. So they're trying to increase their value by making this a success and say, hey, we were worth $200 million. Now we're worth $1 billion or whatever the market value is of them. They're trying to increase that market value so they can sell themselves for more money.
Yeah.
Because if they go private, they still have all of the same management problems that they've had over the past several years. And honestly, actually, they just recently released a statement. This was 2 days ago on the 9th. They said they are aggressively taking decisive steps in order to reshape the company and have a renewed focus on gameplay quality. Some quotes say they're doing this in order to deliver, quote, the best in-class player experience, enhancing operational efficiency and maximizing value creation. Obviously, it's more like buzzwords than anything, but basically, they've actually, the one thing is this: they announced the other day that they said, quote, today they're announcing that they have appointed leading advisors to review and pursue various transformational, strategic, and capitalistic options to extract the best value for stakeholders. So that sounds to me like they're not going to go private. They're trying to increase their value so they can sell themselves and just make more money, more or less.
Yeah.
They say that the process was going to be overseen by an independent members of the board of directors. Ubisoft will inform the market in accordance with applicable regulations. Blah blah. It says they now expect these investments to actually be over $200 million in cost. So it's going to be a pretty big deal. What they're doing. I mean, hopefully they're getting rid of basically senior management in hopes that they can find someone better.
I just hope that the people on the floor making the game happen don't get shit on in the process, right?
Like the Prince of Persia guys.
Yep. Yeah. Honestly, canning that team was a stupid fucking decision.
It really was.
It's a really kind of out of pocket comparison, but I can see how it would compare. I have friends in the military, and one of them, his lieutenant, is part of the bomb squad as well. And his lieutenant told him a story of someone asking him that he was training. He was like, why did you choose this? Like, isn't this terrifying? And he's like, yeah, either it goes right or it's someone else's problem.
Exactly. Yeah, that's exactly the attitude of EOD. Yes. I have met enough of them to be like, look, I'm either right or I'm dead, and then I don't have to worry about it ever again. I'm like, fuck, dude, that's hardcore.
I mean, you'd have no choice but to have that mentality.
Yeah, that's how you have to cope with the stress of that job. And it's, but
it either goes right or it's just suddenly not my problem.
Since the original release of Assassin's Creed, literally since the end of Assassin's Creed 1, I have hungered for an Assassin's Creed in feudal Japan because it just makes sense. And I want to be clear here. I want so badly for this to be the greatest Assassin's Creed game because it deserves to be. I'm terrified that it won't be. And a franchise that through all its ups and downs, through all its iterations and things I haven't liked about it, is still one of my favorite of all time. I don't want to see it go away. I think there is a lot Assassin's Creed can still be. I think the series needs a reboot because it's so convoluted at this point that, like, just start over or just forget everything that you've done and just move forward. But the
Mirage
gameplay
was honestly the perfect for that. It was out of all the modern Assassin's Creed.
I just recently bought it, and I need to play it because, like, that seems like
fantastic.
Yeah,
it feels like a good mix of like old school Assassin's Creed and Origins.
The teleport movement thing that it's a little it's a little too mysticism still, but like everything else seems really grounded and practical and great. I want them to move away from the massive open world. It's not The Witcher. Stop trying to be The Witcher. And so that's where my biggest concern is are we doing
open world since before The Witcher though?
No. Odyssey, well, yes, but no, right? So like Odyssey was made specifically to compete with Witcher 3. So like, yes, Origins, Odyssey, right. Origins was open world, but it was also like there were still, it wasn't the way Odyssey was, and like since Odyssey they kind of went down that path.
Black Flag 4 was open world.
Yeah, but it was
open world. I mean,
Black Flag kind of did it correctly though, because
yes.
they made it open world with the intent that they knew that they were going to be making an entire like pirate thing out of it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Versus like here's Assassin's Creed, but then here's also just open world just cuts.
Yeah,
if that makes sense.
And it was more than just the open world. It was the idea that like I don't know, like Odyssey, you couldn't like the instant stealth kill being removed from the game was the stupidest thing ever. Period. Like that was a horrible fucking design choice.
Absolutely.
But we're not talking about that. We're talking about this. Naoe, I hope this game gets a co-op play, because I think that is what's really going to blow this shit up. What kept Unity so prominent for a long time was its co-op play. Its 4-player co-op was awesome. It was really well integrated. France was a great setting. Feudal Japan is a great setting. And if they add a co-op to this, there was a lot of speculation that part of the delay we might see that. There's been no hint of it. I still hope maybe that will come.
I mean, even if it's just in the vein of Ghost of Tsushima's multiplayer, that'd be so exciting.
Dude, that was fucking sweet. That was such a good like stealth drop.
That would be the easiest thing to do too.
Yeah.
It'd be a super easy implementation.
Yeah.
Yeah. But if I digress, Legends is apparently getting its own TV show or movie now.
Nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
thanks for ruining that quick fire news.
Mike hit it with he hit it with the quicker fire news. So I mean, in conclusion, man, I will be signing up. I already said this kind of when we talked about it last time. I will be signing up for Ubisoft subscription bullshit to play this game day one when it comes out. This will be one of those games that I do write a first impressions review for. So this is another one that I will absolutely be recording and documenting, because this game, for good or bad, deserves to be documented and thrown out to the wolves. Ultimately, like that's the best way I can think to put it. Let people take what they're going to take.
Sink or swim, basically.
Yep. So final thoughts on Shadows before we move on to our next big topic for the night.
Do we mentioned the size of the game. Do we know how big the map is? If they said if it was bigger than,
I believe they said it was
any of the others.
Smaller than Origins, but not by much. If I'm
smaller than Origins, around the same size of Valhalla, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yeah.
Okay, so still
pretty big, because Valhalla was pretty big.
Yeah.
Too.
Yeah.
I'm just worried because kind of going back to Star Wars Outlaws, that my problem with Outlaws, like I love the game, but my problem is that the way that the plot and like the way that you're doing your missions, it feels like it was structured towards a linear experience, and then they just shifted and made it open world.
Yep.
So I got to like one of the planets and I was like, there's so much shit to go out and explore to do, but I have no idea where to fucking start because I've just been doing the plot. So I think I'm worried that that's going to happen. That's probably my only worry that's going to happen with AC Shadows, is that it's going to be structured as like a linear experience in an open world environment.
I kind of like the linear open world stuff though, because like if it's done correctly, right, you have your objective, and then that objective for the main quest says, hey, you need to go here and do this, and that objective is like way good travel
and, like,
away,
that's fine.
And then you travel there, and as you're traveling you encounter other side stories and shit like that. You don't necessarily feel like you have to, but you develop them and find them organically, right? That's what Witcher 3 did phenomenally. So as long as they move that way, because even in Assassin's Creed 4 I felt like they did a great job with it being a narrative linear story, but you have an open world to go and play in, and you're like, oh, well, I got to sail past this little key island over here. I might as well go see what's over here. Oh shit, there's an Assassin's Creed. Like that kind of exploration is great.
That makes sense. But like the thing with Outlaws is that there was no push, I guess, in the sense to go and explore shit. Like if you compare it to Jedi Survivor or the Jedi Fallen Order, like it's a linear experience. It has open areas, and there was a push to get you to explore things. And then Jedi Survivor came out, and it was like massive open areas. There's entire towns and cave systems and all these things you can go and explore. They actually like encourage you, don't directly encourage you, but you will encourage go and look at shit. But like right in Jedi or in
Outlaws,
the other one that we were Outlaws, sorry, in Outlaws. Right when you get to that first major town and the game actually opens up for the first time, you can kind of look out on the horizon and you're like, I know I can go and explore that, but why?
Gotcha.
Where do I go? Like, what's? There's no markers. There's no like way to identify if there's something out there that is worth exploring. You know, like there's nothing just attention grabbing from it. So it doesn't feel like it was intended to be an open world experience. It was intended to be a linear experience, and they just pivoted last minute.
I have a feeling that's not going to be a problem with AC Shadows.
Yeah, I don't think it will
Shadows
either.
has been open world for so long, and
Yeah.
they've been notoriously not necessarily made fun of, but panned or made fun of or whatever for having maps that are just like fucking icon heavy.
Yes,
because you can't see the damn map because of all the fucking icons. And I know they were trying to tone that down a little bit, not just with the ability to customize what icons you see, but because they don't want you to not be able to see the damn map. But honestly, I mean, that's one of the things they've said is that they're listening to player feedback, and that's another reason why they're delaying it 5 months is so they can fix some of this stuff and maybe get rid of some of the plagiarized content.
That'd be nice.
It makes me wonder about the buildings in the game. So there were some pointed out buildings that are decidedly not Japanese.
Right.
So hopefully they change that kind of stuff. We'll see. Ultimately, I think all of the changes look really good, and I personally am. I'm more excited now than I've been since before it was initially supposed to launch. Which, by the way, I looked up it was in November, not October.
It was November. All right.
Yeah.
Well, speaking about being excited about newly released stuff, Nvidia has just done CES. They weren't the only ones there. Obviously, CES, for those of you who don't know, is a huge tech convention, much like the E3 of old.
Electronics showcase.
Yeah, but it's every it's laptops, it's motherboards, it's GPUs, it's TVs, it's everything. And Nvidia
robot vacuums like the Roomba with arms, and sex robots, and all of it.
If it has technology and a CPU, it was there. Nvidia showed off their new 5000 series GPUs or 50 series as everybody loves to call them. And we got some mixed thoughts, actually. We had some conversation prior to the show, and I think we all kind of landed in different areas on what they showed off. So we're going to talk about this. I want to start the conversation with Nvidia's announcement of their new plug-in software, I guess you could call, Nvidia Ace, which is kind of doing the things that we want to see in gaming that Tim and I had actually talked about for Elder Scrolls 6. There is AI integration now into non-player characters that, for those of you watching this at home, you can talk to NPCs and talk to the game using your voice and have it do things. Greeting NPCs. And in this demo, they show he gets to talk into his controller or his headset or whatever the hell he's actually using in this video to tell the NPCs what to paint his ship, how to paint it, what to make it look like, what to make the sticker look like. And obviously there's limitations on this. That's not, it's not infallible, right? But it's very cool integration. At the same time, Tom Clancy's End War did this like 10 years ago.
Yep.
You could play that entire game by voice commands. So that side of things, I'm a little bit like, why did we need AI to do this when they did it so long ago? Maybe I'm missing something, but
to be fair, in End War, you had very specific list of commands you can give, and now it's meant to be
a little bit more
very
open-ended.
very broad.
Yeah.
You still probably have to be kind of specific, but like the command itself is like endless, the possibility.
Yeah, one of the things the guy actually says, he says, paint my ship desert camo. And I'm like, oh, that's kind of cool. We're going to see like a pattern and like it'll be like DCU. It'll be desert camo. Just paints it tan. I'm like, okay, so not quite capable of that level of detail.
Smartest of AIs yet.
Yeah. It's Chat GPT plugin times 2. Like it's kind of getting there, right? So
yeah, early adoption.
The interesting one was they're doing a plugin for PUBG called Ally. I don't know if you guys saw that at all.
I watched the trailer.
PUBG is not the only game getting this type of.
Yeah, there's a ton of games. There's some games completely built around it. There's some games that are just plugging it in.
I meant getting the AI partner. There's several games getting that pretty much exactly that same AI.
Got it. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah.
So
the different games just call it different things, but yeah.
Basically, making your AI computer feel more human. With PUBG, you'll be able to talk to them, say, "Hey, I'm looking for this." They'll find it. Let you know if they find it. Supposedly, supposedly it'll make them better in combat, which is interesting. I'm not sure that I buy that. But I think, Tim, you had one that you shared with us that you said sounded really cool. And I want you to share that with the audience about the boss monster.
This one stood out to me. I'm going to find out my link where I put it. Apparently I didn't put it in order. I thought I had. How about just find it?
I'll give you some time here. Oh, did you get it?
Not
okay.
Yet.
Let me know when you get it. So this is a suite. This obviously isn't. It's not obvious. I actually had to look this up twice to confirm. This is not exclusive to Nvidia chips. This new software. It is optimized to work on Nvidia, but it's not exclusive. Go ahead, Tim.
Yeah. So that was the thing. Yeah, it's not exclusive to Nvidia. I was agreeing. It's not quite. But anyways, what he was referring to is there's an AI boss fight in a video game called. I don't know if it's Mir 5 or MIR 5, but I also don't know if this is an MMO or not. But it sure seems like it
looks
because
like
there's
one.
there's 4 players fighting together, and they discuss this boss fight that basically as you're fighting this boss is more or less recording what's going on and learning from you as a player. And as a team, even to see, this player is the healer. They're going to be my priority target. We need to make sure we kill that one first. Or, this guy deals the most damage. I need to make sure that I don't, reveal my backside to him or whatever. Basically, this AI learns how to fight against you and teams similar to yours. So that way, the next fight, it's going to be different. And it's not just a simplistic, like, say, the way Super Smash Brothers did it back in the day, where they might, use the same combos. Or styles, which was really cool, by the way, especially considering how old the game is. But basically, this boss will literally analyze every single fight that you've ever had against it in order to improve itself for future fights, and it'll figure out strategies that work the best and so on and so forth. And it's really, really cool, if you ask me, because this is something that can be implemented to not just bosses. They should be able to implement this into every thing, every enemy is what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
And it sounds to me similar to the Nemesis system that the Shadow of Mordor had, but even more than that. Like, not just remembering who you are and having a vendetta against you, but actually literally learning how to be a better combatant. And
yeah,
I don't know, the possibilities have me very excited to make games way more organic feeling and just interesting.
Yeah.
Rather than just learning attack patterns and stuff.
Mike, what did you take away from Ace? What were your thoughts on Ace?
So I had a couple thoughts. Initially, when it seemed like it was going to be an Nvidia specific exclusive, I was originally going to say, I guess I can still kind of say it. It has its place. I think for multiplayer games, it definitely makes sense, especially if it's a live service game where your stuff is basically hosted off system. If the whatever server host that your game is running on, if it happens to have a bunch of Nvidia integrations, and like if you take, for instance, the Division NPCs and the AI, they're pretty fucking dumb. Unless they're like covered in armor, unless they're like covered in armor and like more bullet spongy than like the typical AI in the Division is, then they'll just fucking run at you like guns blazing because they're in full armor.
Yeah.
Seeing that in a multiplayer game, especially in like an area like Dark Zone, would be amazing because you can attack one section of or like one group of AI and then go to the next group, and they interact and respond completely differently to your tactical pursuit compared to the last guys. And originally, like I was saying, when we were under the assumption that this was going to be an Nvidia exclusive thing, I was going to say if it's on like multiplayer games where it's all hosted off system, then fucking fine. But it seems like it's all going to be part of the computer ecosystem as a whole. Yeah. I just want to. I hope that this isn't going to be something that you have to pay for as a developer to use, because I know their AI suite you have to pay for, but you can download SDKs for like specific things, like taking NVIDIA broadcast, for instance, you could do like the blurred background and like the noise reduction. Like from the SDKs, you can download just straight from the broadcast page and import them into like OBS or Streamlabs or whatever system you're using. So if like the developer of Tarkov could just go and grab that Ace SDK and implement it into their NPC AIs, which arguably are pretty fucking smart.
Yeah.
That would be a great experience. It would be a rage experience, but it'd be a great experience.
I think. Go ahead, Tim.
I was just going to say that, we've sort of been alluding to that we thought that it was going to be exclusive to Nvidia when we first read into this. We have since confirmed that it's not exclusive, thank God.
Yeah.
However, it does appear, given some of the things they've stated, that it's not going to be exclusive to Nvidia cards, but it might be better for Nvidia cards.
I was going to touch on that.
It'll be easier to deploy and run better, probably because of their normal shit that they've implemented in proprietary.
Yeah,
exactly. So, like, basically, some of the things they're saying that I found, a breakdown that I found basically says that the microservices can be accessed through NVIDIA's AI enterprises and are available for cloud deployment, like other NVIDIA's other stuff. However, it suggests that there might be specific implementations that just work better on NVIDIA GPUs, different online capabilities or on-device capabilities, certain integration into games. We know that some games that aren't... how do I say this? Let me just state, one of the games that's mentioned specifically, it says the first game explicitly using NVIDIA Ace is Mecha Break. It's some mech-style game that people have been very excited about because you can make some... Never mind, I'll move on.
Yeah.
it leverages the technologies to provide more interactive NPCs, but there's no explicit statement that other GPUs can't use similar AI for other characters.
Sure.
Basically, it sounds like that anyone can use it, but ultimately, if you have an NVIDIA GPU, the Blackwell architecture of their GPUs are designed for this, and therefore it might just work better for their cards. It makes me wonder. I was gonna say it makes me wonder. What about the anyone that doesn't have a 50 series card?
Yeah. Not only not have a 50
if it's
series
open
card,
to all cards, then it should just work on all cards. I imagine it'll probably scale to different AI
but to what
cores
degree,
on different generations.
Right? That's the question. To what degree? So, like, how well optimized is it going to be? It's a software, right? Software has to be optimized. And if it's exclusively super tuned to NVIDIA, what about the Intel GPU users? What about the AMD users like me? Like, what experience am I going to have versus they're going to have? We saw, we saw with Stalker 2 how poorly optimized that game was for NVIDIA software, for NVIDIA tech. I never had an issue on AMD. So is this going to result in, like, is my ally in PUBG just going to not really understand if I go, hey, I need 5.56 ammo? Like, is there going to be a chance that he glitches out because I'm on an AMD? Like, it raises some interesting questions. It's really cool software, and I understand they wanted to hone it to push consumerism towards their brand, but you will never have 100% of the market. You just won't. It's never going to happen. In fact, we talked about this before CES. NVIDIA's share is not necessarily dropping, but their market share is sinking because AMD is getting a larger part of that market.
Yep. Intel
is taking a part of that market. So they're not necessarily losing customers, but they're not 100%, and they never will be.
The other thing about that is that since the 20 series GPUs, and this is honestly probably end up being a great segue into the DLSS 4.0 conversation.
Yeah.
At one point, I think it was right after the 30 series launched, some higher up guy in NVIDIA's corporate, like those suits people,
sure,
had kind of made a prediction that, like, GPU rasterization entirely at some point is just gonna fucking go away. It's all going to be AI generated. The way that I'm looking at, like, the breakdowns that we had mentioned prior to starting recording, and we wanted to wait on a bit to actually talk about this. where it takes a base frame and then generates 3 more based on that frame and based on the prediction of like a movement of your character or like this car and like a bunch of other stuff that's happening in that frame. That's effectively removing, I wouldn't even know what the percentage is, so I'll just say like, because it's 3 frames, I'll say 30% of the workload from the rasterization. Yep. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So at a certain point, when the guy said it, I was like, bullshit. Like, that's not going to happen. But now I'm seeing it, and I'm like, this actually might fucking happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's the technology for the 50 series is a significant enhancement over the standard frame generation. And not only that, they're also using a special AI new method. I can't remember what they called it, but basically, it's not just better than typical frame generation. It actually produces less, ghosting or artifacting or anything.
Less artifacting,
yeah. It's literally better in every way, and it does more.
Yeah,
and see, and that kind of also is like, this is where the alternate views begin, because I have a very different take than these two on this. I think this is fucking atrocious, and Nvidia has pulled a cheap parlor trick, if I may.
Yeah. And I'll always be an Nvidia guy because I've always had.
They're good cards. I by no means think they're. Yeah, I don't think they're bad cards by any means.
I haven't had horrible experiences with AMD hardware. More so, just the driver side of things can get convoluted sometimes. Mm-hmm. Not so much anymore. They've gotten a lot better since like the RX line, RX 400 and RX 500 line. Their drivers have gotten a lot more efficient.
Yeah.
I've always been on Nvidia for the most part. And while I will probably continue to stay with Nvidia every time I upgrade, which I probably will skip this generation because I'm on a 4090, I have no reason to upgrade.
Yeah.
I try to also remain neutral with it because I can see how, yes, this is amazing tech, and I'll fucking shill for it if I get the chance. At the same time, I see the bigger picture of this is AI.
Mm-hmm.
This is, I had this conversation with one of my friends.
It's horse armor.
It's horse armor. But the other way to look at it is if you look at the bigger picture, because now Nvidia is selling you a service. They're making hardware, but they're selling you a service to pair with that hardware. And what's going to end up happening is gamers are kind of beta testing these AI features. Because, yes, there's a lot of AI that's going into their data centers, but not on the same scale or the same level that, like, encoding and frame generation and, like, all of the chat GPT-esque type fucking interactions are going into. So being able to test all of these features on consumer hardware to then be able to bloat out and sell to corporations and people who aren't technically considered consumers. That's the idea that I think Nvidia is kind of leaning into, is that they're taking games as a service and literally fucking making a service with it.
Yes. Well, here's the reality, right? The market's tapped.
Yeah.
There is no more penetration to have in gaming. There's none. It's we've hit our. This is it. Like you'll have drop off from people dying. I don't think there's anybody. I don't think there's anybody currently of an age to play video games that does not play video games currently in some capacity. Now you will have drop off as people die, and you will have increase as people grow up and become gamers and start playing games.
Yeah.
But I think in terms of market share, we have hit 100%. I don't think there's any more market penetration to make. That's fine. It's just an opinion.
So the reason why I say I don't agree with you is because there's definitely countries where people can't. That they're not rich enough to do so yet. They don't have the ability. They're worried about eating.
Cell phone games. Cell phones are everywhere, especially in those
leads
countries.
Into the point of, like, if we're talking about market share in terms of company to company, someone on a mobile game in India going out and buying a pre-built desktop at some point, like when they turn 18 or something like that, that's a new market. That's someone that entered the market fresh.
But if Nvidia can make it so they don't have to do that, they will. And that's where I think they're going, is they're trying to own that section. But let's get back to DLSS, because I do want to talk on this. I hate this. I hate it a lot.
So I gotta ask you before you give your thoughts.
Okay.
you said this before we started recording,
Sure.
and I've seen people say this as well. And like, I get the absolute base of the phrase, but I don't understand why it matters.
Okay.
You said fake frames. This thing is putting out fake frames.
Yes.
Okay.
So
I can kind of dumb it down for a lot of people right now.
Playing it like I'm
Because so if you go in and think about those really old TVs that hit the market back in like 2014, 2015, that made all of your TV shows feel super smooth all of a sudden, they call it the soap opera effect.
Mm-hmm.
And what it is, it's a black insertion frame that just flashes really quick, so your eye perceives it as an extra frame. Mm-hmm. It's kind of the same idea. A lot of people that went and bought those TVs didn't like it. It actually made them sick, so they turned that feature off.
Right.
I remember.
So it's kind of the same idea of
except
the
for
fake frame thing with Nvidia. They don't want that.
Except for now, we're getting
insertion.
3 of those insertions, and those 3 are an approximation. The way I like to think about it, because I'm visually retarded. I can't picture things in my head. Yeah, look, man, I just am. I'm visually retarded.
Are you one of those people that when you think in words rather than pictures?
Correct. Yes. Yeah. I don't see thoughts, which makes it really hard for me to, like, when somebody's describing something. It makes D&D kind of a challenge for me. I have to really focus and like really try. But that's besides the point. The way I kind of think about it is, you're a 5-year-old and you've drawn a stick picture. And someone over here knows what the picture is supposed to look like on your next attempt, but you're 5.
What's funny is Nvidia has a feature that lets you do that now.
Yeah.
You're 5, and you don't know exactly what that next picture is supposed to look like, so you guess. And sometimes you get it right, and sometimes you get it wrong. Now, I don't think it's that simple with Nvidia. I think there's a lot of machine learning that goes into it and make sure those frames are as accurate as possible. Yeah. But you will never convince me that all 3 of those frames are going to be exactly what they were supposed to be if they were 3 actual frames. And so that's why they're considered, in my opinion, why I consider them fake frames. They're not the GPU itself going, okay, this is what's happening next. It's a sub chip going, this is what I think is going to happen. Yes, it happened. So it's bloat, right? So we've seen another example for you.
Isn't that the whole intent, though? Is for this AI to get good enough to where those quote fake frames, you can't tell the difference.
That's where we're going. And there are those who are okay with that, and there are those who are opposed to that. I personally fall on the opposed to that. I think native generation is better, because what we're seeing now is kind of the same thing we saw with the recent generation of consoles and teraflops. It's all about the number. Get that number as high as you can. Well, this graphics card can run Cyberpunk 2077 with full ray tracing and 40K textures at 175 frames per second. Well, this one can do it at 257. It's not really doing it at 257. It's doing it at like 150, and they're inserting fake frames, but they're claiming that it's doing it at that. Yeah. So like it's more a principle than it is like a product issue, I guess, if that makes sense. So
you're upset with the marketing, not the actual tech?
A little bit of both, yes. More so the marketing than the tech, because they're marketing it as like, well, this is a 200. The 5070, for those of you who didn't watch
I was just CSS. About to start talking about this.
The 5070
is as powerful as a 40.
Yeah, they came out and said it is as powerful as a 4090 for $549.
They said more powerful.
I think they said but it might have been more. Either way, its performance is as good, if not better, than a 4090, and it's just a bullshit claim. It's marketing, because in raw power, it is nowhere near a 4090. It's just not.
The comparison was literally the 4090 with no DLSS, no frame gen, and then it was versus the 5070 with DLSS 4.0. So it's inserting 30 frames.
So
a better way to compare that would have been to turn on DLSS in the 4090 and compare the two, which the 4090 would have fucking demolished the 5070 even with the extra frames. Or turning DLSS off entirely, and then just comparing the 4070 or the 4060, whatever fucking card you want to pick in the mid-range tier, because that's what the 5070 is. It's a mid-range card, a bunch of AI bullshit tacked onto it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like, yes, it's more so the message and the precedent they're setting by how they're talking about this tech that I'm upset about than the tech itself, because it's being marketed in a way that's just buzzwords and consumerism, right? It's going, hey, this card's more powerful than the best card from last generation. And people who don't know any better are going to buy that and expect it to perform at that level on everything. And it won't. It's not the same.
Games need to be optimized for this new technology.
Yeah,
yes.
and
they've said that when these launch, there's only going to be 75 games roughly available. For
right, and that's the other side of this.
Multi-gen, yeah.
The game has to have, the game that you're trying to play has to have that feature. It has to have DLSS 4. Not every game does. Not every game will. So for them to come out and say, blanket statement, performs as good as a 4090 is just bad marketing. It's misleading, and I wish to hell it could be labeled as false advertisement. I really do, because it's such a dangerous precedent to set.
So I actually don't know the answer to this, but before you do this, I don't know the answer to this, but don't most games get DLSS support these days? And I don't mean DLSS 4, obviously, but like if a game is available, it basically gets DLSS support.
Yes and no. It depends on the developer and the title.
Yeah.
The game that I was part of the content creation team for, Bodycam, they still haven't added DLSS. The game came out a year and a half ago.
Yeah.
They plan to add DLSS at some point, I think either this year or I think they initially planned for like late last year. It's now the beginning of, it's Q1 2025, and the game doesn't have DLSS yet. It has FSR 3, because FSR 3 is like super fucking easy to implement. It's a standard at this
drag
point.
And drop it.
Yeah. But it all depends on the developer. It depends on if they have to pay for it, you know.
Yeah, and there's different levels of it, right? Like there's different levels of integration of DLSS. And so and back to Mike's point, you have to pay for that. Right? FSR, I believe, is free. DLSS,
it's open source. FSR is completely open source. You can just go to GitHub and fucking download it yourself. Most games actually, if they're built on Unreal Engine, the game engine on Unreal Engine itself will pick up if you use FSR 3. If the game wasn't even shipped with it, if you fucking download the DLL file and drop it into the game directory, it will see it and load it.
Yeah. So it's super. It's different paths to get to the same point, right? But like, again, it's more the precedent of what Nvidia said, how they said it, how it was stated that I have an issue with. I'm not sold. I've never been sold on upscaling. I did it a little bit with FSR, and I just don't enjoy it. I prefer native resolution. I don't have a 200 hertz panel. I don't have a 350 hertz panel. My panel is 170 hertz. Why the hell do I care if I'm generating 357,000 frames? It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter.
That is a very common thing that PC master racers usually say. Not you, obviously, but most of them are just like, well, I can do 120 or 240 frames. And obviously there's enough of a press for that. I mean, even if you go from 30 FPS to 120, then
that's a big jump.
It's still a big jump. It's a very big jump.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that, Mike, I don't remember the person's name, the video you shared, but one of the things to consider as well is you do get those extra frames, but you don't improve your latency. So it
was Jay's 2 cents.
Like, okay. Yeah, it still feels like whatever frames. The original, whatever the original frames count be.
And that's,
so, I mean, that's definitely a big deal. Now, so my question is when we're talking about these Nvidia cards, is price points.
Yeah,
price points. So like the 5090 at the unfortunately accurate rumor of $2,000,
yeah,
is insane to me. Like
I honestly
touch on this a little bit too.
I just want to I'm going to go ahead and say this: the 4090 is going to be a sought-after card for probably the next 20 to 30 years. I'm just going to say that out the gate. The 4090...
That's a long time.
Let me explain. If this is the way NVIDIA's going with their tech, the 4090 will still outperform everything they release for probably the next 2 generations in raw performance. The 4090 will be
better though.
The 5090 is better again because of DLS4.
No. Raw performance, it's better.
Is it?
It has more
rasterization.
Okay.
I mean,
so
it's like 20% better, so it's like 10 fucking frames. But if you're on a 4090, there's no reason to jump to
the
a
4090 the 4090 is the new 1080 Ti, in my opinion. Like, it's going to be a card people use for probably the next 10 years because of how good it is, and it's just before all the added nonsense. Not necessarily nonsense, but from my perspective, nonsense that Nvidia put in with the 5090 and the insane price tag of the 5090. So the 4090 is a solid card. If you have one, hang on to that bad boy, because that is fucking gold in my opinion. Go ahead, Mike, with what you were going to say.
I wanted to kind of clear up the marketing thing, and I'll also probably clip this specific section and share it, because like it needs to be cleared up. Every generation of Nvidia cards, there's kind of a loss and a gain in terms of performance and like the numbering of the cards. So I'll kind of start with like my first major quote unquote Nvidia GPU, high-end Nvidia GPU, was the 980 Ti. That card performs the exact same rasterization performance, no DLSS, obviously, because it doesn't have that capability. Performed the exact same as a 1070. The 1070 performed the exact same as a RTX 2060. Again, no DLSS, just pure rasterization. So the common consensus with that is the top number card for the last generation will perform the exact same as the
second best
number card. Not the second best card, but the number below it in the next generation. So 980 Ti.
That's what I mean. The second best card in the next generation. Yeah. Sorry.
So if we're going from like, let's say a 2080 Ti, which I also had at one point, the 3070 Super, I think is what it was, performed pretty much the exact same. So if you want to know like where you should spend your fucking money, don't go below that number that's under the last two numbers in the model. Yeah, don't go below that, because at that point you're losing money because you're losing the rasterization performance. So if you're on a 10 series card or a 20 series card, now's the time to upgrade.
Yes.
If you're on a 30 series card or a 40 series card, don't fucking upgrade.
Yeah, pretty much.
Unless you happen to be on like a 3050.
So you also look at the price too, and then based on what you just said, that the 5080 is basically going to be a 4090 effectively. Although if I'm not mistaken, I do believe aren't the VRAM, isn't it less than a 4090?
It is, or is it but it is less than the 4090.
But
it's also
the VRAM only determines the I want to say the texture throughput. Like because everybody that's buying these cards is looking for like the prettiest fucking setting that they can get. Yeah. So most games you can max at ultra with like 16 gigs, 18 gigs, or like just under 20 gigs of VRAM. So
I've been hearing a lot of talk
theory, a 5080 is fine.
Yeah, so I'm not super versed in all this stuff. I've been trying to be, because I want to buy a PC this year.
Yeah.
I actually just finished a major bench. I forgot to mention this. I built a 30-foot bench for someone. I've been working on it for the past several weeks. I finally finished today. Told the dude 500. He gave me 800. So
nice. Hell yeah, dude.
I've got some. Yeah, right. So I've got some extra money just thrown aside for the PC.
Hell yeah.
I've got to start. But my point is so I've been seeing a lot of people on X and various other places say that 24 gigs VRAM is sort of your baseline for say 4K 60.
Definitely not.
No.
That's what I've seen.
Yeah. So it's baseline.
If you're playing Cyberpunk and only Cyberpunk, and that's like the one game in your whole fucking existence that you play, then yes.
Yeah. You're future proofed for a while at 24. Like I think my card has like in the low 20s, right? Like you're future proof for a good couple of generations. But personally,
I'm good until the 70 series at the very least.
Personally, here's the thing. My biggest tip for PC gaming is straight up avoid 4K. The monitors are still too expensive at the higher frame rates. They're not worth buying. And I don't know if you're like me. I love having 2 monitors. So I've got whatever monitor I'm buying, I'm doubling the cost of it because I'm buying a second one. So
that's something I've been telling people for the past year and a half or so now. Is that do 2K gaming, it's not worth the performance requirements and all that other stuff. It's just
not to mention it's not even just not it's you're going to perform better with the same card on a lower resolution, but you're also going to spend significantly less getting a higher frame rate monitor in 2K than you will in 4K. And now everybody loves OLED. I don't know personally. I don't think they're worth the money, but I don't game on an OLED, so I can't
they are
say.
beautiful, especially when you have HDR. But I get the price. You know,
the pricing's huge on it, right? Like a 2K 160 frame refresh rate LCD monitor is about $300 cheaper than an OLED one of the same everything else. So like, it's a big jump for a panel, and I'm just not that personally. But yeah, so if you go with something that has 24 gigs of RAM, and you're playing at 2K, you'll be future-proof probably 2-3 generations, maybe longer. Okay. If you're trying to push 4K, you might get a generation, maybe 2, maybe 3 if you're lucky.
I would honestly say that at 4K, you might be fine with 3 or 4 generations if you have 24 gigs of RAM.
But especially now that they're changing how, with Nvidia, how they're rendering stuff, you're probably future-proof for even longer than that. So if you get the if you get the 5070, 5080, whatever it is, you're probably set for a good while, honestly.
Yeah, so that's the thing. The next step in this conversation is that the price decrease is pretty significant from a 5090 to a 5080. It's $1,000 cheaper.
Yeah,
instead of being $2,000, is $1,000, and then it gets even cheaper after that. The regular 5070 is $550, and the 5070 Ti is $750.
Mm-hmm.
And based on what Mike was saying about the differences, buy a 5080 if you're going to buy one of these things.
Yeah.
The price stuff brings us back in full circle to Nvidia at this point is selling you a software or service.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes, it's bundled with this hardware, but the whole idea is that the hardware is purpose built for the service they're selling you, which is why it's priced the way that it is. And the other thing is DLSS is great, but I think it really shines, and I wish that they would have just fucking pushed it as this. Gaming laptops are where DLSS is intended to be used at.
Yes.
The DLSS 4.0 with the extra 3 frame insertions on, like, even my laptop. I have a Razer, a 23 14-inch Razer Blade with a 4060 in it, and I did some wizardry shit to get my 4090 hooked up to it. But the laptops that are going to ship with the 5000 series GPUs are going to be far and miles ahead purely because of the DLSS stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think the DLSS is great for laptops because it does reduce power consumption, which means longer battery life, means less heat on those laptops. I've gone small form factor. I probably will never go back. I've had a Zephyrus G14 laptop for years, and I love the damn thing. Actually waiting on a new battery because it burned out. So I probably will never go to anything bigger than the 14-inch, like, thin factor. Yeah. But that thing heats up even under the smallest load of game. So DLSS makes a lot of sense in those kind of laptops and laptops in general because of its changing to power consumption and stuff like that. But I'm just, if you're an Nvidia guy, just hold a little bit longer. Just wait until these cards are out. People have them. They're playing with them. They're reviewing them. And then decide if you want to upgrade to that or go to the 40 series. That's my suggestion. Tim, same thing to you as somebody who's looking at buying a GPU this year. The 50 series is coming out now, but wait until people have reviews and they have them in their hands and can actually confirm what they're doing with them.
Well, I ain't gonna have money, in the next 3 weeks. So
right.
I have no choice but to
based on Nvidia's pattern with their cards and the performance to price ratio. The solid card in each generation is either going to be the 60 or the 70 model. So, Tim, you might end up with a 5060. I would honestly say you should wait until the mid-range refresh if you can. Hold off another year and a half.
Like a 5080 Ti or something.
Most likely will release the 5060 Super or the 5060 Ti, whatever the hell they want to call it. And that will be the perfect sweet spot for most people.
I think, budget-wise, that'll probably be a good chip. I am interested to see what Nvidia or AMD ends up showing up with. They have confirmed that their RDNA 4 GPUs are coming early this year.
They announced the 9070 and the...
Yeah, I think they're the 90 series, which is weird because they skipped the 80. So I don't know why they did 80. But
they announced that they're going to have their RDNA 4 technology as well as FSR 4. So we don't know yet, but it's apparently FSR 4 is supposed to be pretty damn good too. But we don't know anything about it yet.
Yeah, I mean, we'll see what they do.
Maybe it'll actually pull Russ into AMD's AI upscaling.
Nah, never. Nope. I'm very happy with my 7900.
That's one thing I want to see. If the FSR 4 is available to your cards, I want to see you use it and see what you think about it.
Yeah, all right. I mean, fair. If they push the update to the drivers, which I'm pretty sure they will, AMD tries to
they
run.
will. FSR is fully open source, so FSR will be on every card imaginable up until the software itself is fucking depreciated.
Yeah, I'll check it out. I still, again, my stance, but I'll check it out for you and we'll see. But like, I'm curious to see what AMD comes out like against those. What the price points that Nvidia dropped are, honestly, in my opinion, AMD levels. Other than their top of the line, those cards being in the like $500 to $1,000 range is pretty fucking reasonable. Considering
that's kind of what I was thinking too.
Yeah, so I'm curious to see what Nvidia or AMD does in response. Again, they've said they're not competing with Nvidia, but you kind of are. You're still making a similar product.
Now pricing is even similar too. So they're going to have to really figure out how to get people to buy their cards.
Yeah.
I think it's also that they're understanding now that Nvidia is selling a service more than hardware. So they're just
focusing
they already
on the
know
hardware.
who their audience is. They know that their audience will stick with them, and they're just not fucking worried about it.
Yeah, it's one of those things when you have your little niche of the market, you just try and nurture that niche, right? So I'm expecting more of the same. I'm not expecting them to start adopting AI or anything wild like that. But I think that's where we're at with that. More to come. Overall, I think CES this year was pretty fucking wild. We saw some pretty cool stuff outside of just gaming consumerism stuff. Just Razer demoed a chair that has heating and cooling in it. They also, I think they announced a affordable gaming chair, which like ergonomically looks comfortable, and it's like $250, which to a lot of people they're like, wow, that's an expensive ass chair. This thing was far more than that, let me tell you. I'm sitting in a Secret Labs.
That was mine.
So so $250 for a comfortable gaming chair is pretty reasonable.
That's pretty good. Yeah.
So there was a lot of cool stuff that came out of CES. If you're at all interested in tech, it's a great thing to look at. The new line of laptops look amazing. Asus is doing with their Zephyrus line looks awesome. They have OLED panels on them. Their prices are incredibly reasonable. Omen's new Transcendent 14-inch laptops also look really freaking great. Like, gaming laptops have gotten to a point where their form factor is small and very easy to pick up and run with. And I think it's great.
Yeah.
Like, there's a lot of good shit that comes out of CES. Any final thoughts before we move over to our quickfire news?
No.
All right.
No.
Okay. Well, Tim, this is your moment to shine, buddy. What do you got for us? Let's hit it. And this is definitely a chonker of an episode because I think we're at an hour 30 right now. Minutes. So let's dig into our quickfire. That will probably be a very long topic and not very quick at all.
Yeah, exactly. All right, so you sort of led me in here with CES stuff. The first thing that I'm pulling up from CES here is Acer's new Nitro Blaze 11, freaking gigantic. You can kill a fucking ogre with this thing. How big it is? Steam Deck competitor. You have to go look up this thing just to get an idea of how big it is. It's massive.
It's a laptop screen with fucking controllers hooked up to it.
It's like 10.93 inches or something like that. So that's why they're calling it the 11. It's basically an 11-inch screen. And it's got Joy-Con-like controllers on the side that you snap on just like you would a Switch. It's priced at a ridiculous $1,100, which I guess isn't terrible when you consider that it's technically better than the Steam Deck as far as specs are concerned, but not necessarily.
There's AMD's new chips in them, and they're like
the
new
Z2 or whatever
AI things, whatever the hell they're calling them now, are stupid good.
Yes, that's those new chips are designed specifically for these portable PCs. So this should be technically better than the Steam than the Steam Deck. However, it's going to be running on Windows rather than the Steam OS.
Yeah.
So
I wouldn't even say should be, just pure performance
I'm gonna
wise,
just
it
do
100% is better than the Steam Deck.
The
we
the Nitro Blade is on screen right now for those of you watching. I just pulled it up, dropped a picture in here. It's massive. So
yeah, it's huge. I can't see it yet. I'm seeing the quick news.
it'll be there in just a minute. I just dropped it.
UCAE.
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah, AI.
Yeah.
But so, like I said, it's going to be better. But when you consider the fact that the Steam OS is designed for handheld gaming and it's super optimized, and it makes games even like Control and Cyberpunk run wonderfully, it makes you wonder just how well something like this will be able to compete, even if it is technically, spec-wise better. But we'll see. Also, pricing themselves out of most people's price range is also another thing that seems a little odd to me.
Here's the
pricing is such a big deal on everyone's mind for everything.
Here's the question that really matters. How's the battery life?
Yeah, right.
2 hours, maybe?
So the Steam Deck, I believe, has a 40 milliamp hour battery, and this one has like a 55. So it's bigger, but it's also a much bigger screen.
Yeah, like that doesn't seem like enough power. That doesn't seem like enough. All right.
You think it'd be like double? And from my understanding, this thing is a chonker in all the ways. Although it's supposed to be a little bit more ergonomic, it just feels right in adult hands.
That's weird because it does not look like it feels right in your hands. Like looking at the
back
way
of it probably has like an actual like concave fucking wraparound thing. So
it has almost exactly the same design as a Steam Deck when it comes to the controllers.
It gives me the chonkiness vibe of the original Xbox controller, the big boy Xbox controller. Like that's what it feels like. The controller that's just way too big, like clearly meant for the guy with just massive meat paws.
Have you heard the term that they use for the standard and the way that they like measure controllers to fit in people's hands?
No.
Like the term, it's I think it's like a Japanese term. I can't remember what company coined it. It actually might have been Nintendo.
Probably.
The term literally translates to baby cradle. So when you hold a controller,
sure, yeah,
the way like the comfortable feeling of like the way the controller
like
sits in your hands.
Babel.
Apparently, it's like cradling a baby.
Yeah.
Interesting. That's an interesting choice. Cradling is the interesting choice for me because I feel like holding a controller is more like when you grab your baby underneath both pair of arms rather than cradling.
You give him just a little bit of shake and you go, "What's wrong with you?"
Yeah. Yes.
And also, I don't know. I'm a little concerned now because Nintendo's first controller was square. So, whose baby were they holding? I'm just a question.
And like I don't remember if it was someone at Nintendo that coined that term, but it's someone from that region of the world that coined the term. It's actually like in a patent from like the 1960s or 70s or some shit. Like it's weird.
All right. Well, moving on. This is one of our truly quick-fire bits of news. But the Transformers Reactivate game, I can't remember if it was an MMO or not. I think it was supposed to be an MMO. That was announced 2 years ago at the Game Awards, has been officially canceled, and the developer Splash Damage may very well be just shuttered. That part's not confirmed yet, but
Again, I didn't even know that there was another Transformers game happening. So
yeah. Moving on, like I said, it turns out that via a new independent report that what we've been saying about what Microsoft has been saying about Game Pass cannibalizing sales, it's actually rather accurate. Basically, you can expect your game on Xbox anyway. It's not necessarily across the other platforms, but on Xbox, you can expect your game to sell up to 80% less. Premium game sales are 80% less if it launches on Game Pass, which, from what I understand, it's mitigated a little bit if you're a bigger game. So, like let's say Assassin's Creed launches, you'll still see less than 80% drop, but you're still going to see a pretty massive drop.
Well, the other thing that makes that just super weird to me, and maybe it's because I don't have a business degree, but neither does Microsoft, it sounds like. Microsoft is injecting so much fucking money into these companies and then telling them that they're going to release on Game Pass. So they're literally losing money that they're injecting into these companies, and they're just continuing to fucking support it anyway. Although I guess if we're talking about how many people are subscribing to Game Pass,
that's
well, no, because even then it seems like they would just even out.
Well,
It wouldn't even be a profit. It would just be a flat even out.
The crux for them is they need to get X number of subscribers. And I can't remember who it was. I want to say it was Sean Layden, but Sean Layden, I believe it was him anyways. If it wasn't him, it doesn't matter. He or this person stated that they believe that in order for Game Pass to be profitable, especially with the sort of output that they're putting onto it, including third-party games and stuff, it needs to be anywhere between 150 and 200 million subscribers. And they're nowhere fucking near that number.
Yeah.
They're like 35 million, which is a
and
lot of people. Don't get me wrong.
Too.
I'm
they
convinced
for the last 2 years.
I'm convinced.
35 million is a lot of people, but for comparison, like, isn't Texas like 350 some odd billion people?
Here's your comparison. Fortnite just broke 140, 200 and something odd million concurrent players, something like that. Yeah. So there's your comparison, really. I am convinced, and I've said this before, I'm convinced Xbox is just a failure for Microsoft that they can write off on their taxes. They have no problem with it hemorrhaging money because they can just go, look, part of our business is failing. Give us a tax break. I'm convinced that's the case at this point.
That doesn't surprise me, especially because the second part of this news is that the Game Pass actually turns out it pushes people to buy games on PlayStation consoles.
That's funny.
Yeah. Call of Duty is an example of that.
Especially for me, because like I was like, prior to Call of Duty releasing on Game Pass, I bought it every release on PC. Now it's on Game Pass, so I'm like, I don't need to have the Game Pass one installed and the one from Steam installed and the one from Battle.net installed at the same time. So I was like, well, I can have it on Game Pass, but then if I don't have my computer, but I have my PlayStation, I can just buy it on PlayStation. So I only ever buy it once. So I don't have to buy it twice anymore.
Yep, and that's what's been happening, and
it
makes me wonder. Makes me wonder about.
I'd like to go back and correct myself with the Texas statement. I think I said billion, and I meant million. There's 350 million people in Texas.
No,
definitely not billion.
Million people. There's 350 million people in America.
Yeah.
Yes. So. Sorry. Yes.
Texas. I don't remember their numbers.
Fuck.
Oh, you're good. You said 350.
Bigger than the Game Pass number. That's for.
Yes. But like you said, Steam has you said that they've capped out, not capped, but like they've just recently hit their highest numbers of 200 and something million, right?
For Fortnite, yeah.
On Fortnite, yeah.
Oh, Fortnite, okay.
Yeah.
For one game. Anyways, Razer has announced that they are launching PC Remote Play to Android and iOS devices, and they are promising that it will have uncompromised visual quality and speed. So basically, they're saying that it's going to look and play just as good as it is on your computer.
I can see Razer also taking that and being like, if you don't have a Razer branded computer, then you don't have this feature.
So I looked into that, and because I was curious, it doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like it seems like it's legitimately just a free software plugin, kind of like Sunbeam and Moonlight, which is what I use to stream to my TV downstairs. It looks like it's just a free plugin to use at any point, at any discretion. So here's my next question. Sunbeam is the replacement for Moonlight. Sunbeam is open source. I want to know when Razer releases their fucking remote stream product if they literally took Sunbeam and just modified the code and then made it their version closed source. Because if they did that, and I wouldn't put it past them to do that because they've fucking done it before. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised. Software, so why not?
I wouldn't be surprised.
Yeah. I mean, it makes business sense. I mean, it's also free, so who cares? They're not charging
it does,
for
but it doesn't, because if you modify code that's open source and then close it, you're breaking GNU license laws. So technically, the person that created Sunbeam and open sourced it can go after Razer for that.
It depends on how much.
Because it's one dude versus an entire fucking corporation.
But it also depends on how much they alter the software. The software is altered to be fundamentally different.
I think we actually talked about this before, and I think the requirement is a minimum of 30% alteration.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah.
So I don't know, but I'm interested in checking it out. I don't generally like gaming on handhelds. Actually talking to Tech about that in our chat right now, just kind of chatting with him about it. And he makes some good points. There's really just not a great way to hold handhelds for long-term play that's comfortable. That very well could just be, we're getting old. But cool tech nonetheless. Lossless streaming sounds good to me.
I find your particular assessment a little funny because I've actually found myself gaming on my Portal way more often.
I guess you're just a limber dude.
days.
I don't know.
The Portal also doesn't weigh like
Yeah, I think the Portal's super light, right?
11-inch
It is pretty light, yeah.
phablet thing you got going on looks like it weighs like a ton.
Actually, apparently, I read something that makes the Steam Deck feel like it's lightweight.
Wow.
Jesus Christ. So that's definitely like a leaning on a table type of play.
Yes.
Hey,
you will not be able to hold that thing.
So I'm unfortunately going to have to break the news here. You're actually going to have to apply for a concealed weapons permit to have this thing because it technically qualifies as a concealed weapon. It is heavy enough that like you're carrying a cinder block in your bag.
Concealed weapon? What are you concealing this in? Your gigantic asshole?
Well, I mean, if you shelled out $1,100 for it, you had to make that money somehow.
Jesus Christ.
Moving on.
Oh man, moving on to Steam Deck, other Steam Deck competitors, the Lenovo Legion Go S. Oh Jesus, the first Steam Deck the Steam OS powered portable PC. This is it's non-Valve anything except for the Steam OS. It is going to be priced at $500, and while it is cheaper than the Steam Deck, it is also weaker than the Steam Deck, although it's supposed to be relatively close in specs.
I want to point out a little while back there were some rumors that Steam was going to come back with the Steam OS because people started seeing new patents for badging that says powered by Steam OS, and of course all of the Steam box nerds like
freaked out,
jizzed their pants basically.
Yeah.
They were super excited because they were like, "Oh shit, a new patent for Steam OS! Like the Steam boxes are coming back." Other people kind of were like, "I can see them going quote unquote cross-platform with it because it's very easy to go and download a modified but very close to source material version of Steam OS." So it makes sense that Steam would just fucking make open platform, or at least sell it to other companies to use it.
Well, I mean, that also uniquely puts them effectively in charge of the portable PC market, assuming they manage to get multiple people to use it. And it also cuts off certain people that are seemingly moving in that direction, like Microsoft. Microsoft is trying to move into the mobile PC market by specifically designing the Windows to fit mobile PCs to be better for them. They actually came out and said that they're trying to effectively make it better. And I just don't think
touchscreen support for Windows has gotten vastly better in the last year and a half. It's stupid good because they're again trying to get into that.
Yeah, and I agree with you that they're doing a decent job making the Windows better for portables. I just don't think that they can compete with the Steam OS. I just don't think they can.
No.
It's too it's too cumbersome in comparison to Linux's lightweight shell. I mean, Linux is very lightweight by comparison. So I don't think Windows OS, even on a mobile, will ever compare.
Exactly. I mean, unless they make some massive strides, then the name brand and the amount of money they have, they could eventually make it happen.
Sure.
But moving on to some of the ruined news that Mike so rudely did so earlier in the episode.
I didn't know that you picked it.
I know you didn't. Along with the Ghost of Tsushima anime coming out, it's in conjunction with Crunchyroll.
Wait, there's an anime? Hold on.
You said
there's an anime.
You said this.
No, I said that the fucking Legends mode was getting a TV show or a movie or something because I forgot. I know they were making a Ghost of Tsushima movie, but it was going to be live action. I had no idea that there was an anime coming.
Yes, there's a Crunchyroll. Sony led. I think it's Funimation and Crunchyroll. I think is what it is. Working together to make this happen. They also announced.
Filter out that static noise that 100% happened in my recording because I need that aggression to cross.
Sony also announced that they are working on a Helldivers movie, and that the scraps from the Horizon TV show on Netflix is being turned into a movie. And At the same time, this was completely unrelated to PlayStation or Sony's announcements. The person who wrote the script for Shadow of the Colossus movie announced like 15 years ago now, actually basically just said that he actually has a script. He's actually still working on it, and it might very well just happen, which is interesting.
For 15 fucking years?
Yeah, apparently.
I mean,
how many times have you thrown away this script and started over?
About as many times as they did it for Halo. Like,
yeah, it was
same thing.
In 2009, they announced that they were working on a movie based on.
I mean, I
Shadow
feel like
Colossus.
Shadow of Colossus, like as it was like fucking perfect. Like you
Basically
made a movie with it.
Just make the graphics better and make it exactly the same.
Well, they did that. They did that with PS4, so it's already there.
Fair enough. Yeah.
I want to touch on the Helldivers movie before we just gloss past it.
Oh yeah,
I have some real concerns about
before
this.
lore deep dive.
All it has to do is be Starship Troopers 2, but good. That's all it's got to do.
But Starship Troopers took itself seriously, and you're not wrong. Like you're right. That is the goal. But here's the thing, right?
Only if we bring back the original cast and they all play.
Yes, very good.
Rico's Roughnecks. Let's ride.
Yes.
Look, Helldivers.
Neil Patrick Harris is the lieutenant.
Oh fuck, dude! Perfect, perfect cast. Yep. Here's the issue I have with Helldivers as a movie. As a game, the campiness, the humor is perfect, and I'm worried that in a movie they're gonna have a hard time not feeling like the Guardians of the Galaxy ripoff. Like it's that
they're gonna have to make it more serious, but
that's gonna not make it as good, because part of what makes the Helldivers universe so great is the campy, like, no one escapes democracy.
Yeah,
like, it's so good.
Liberty. Exactly. It's the not serious, very silly. Combat.
The other way they could kind of escape the Guardians of the Galaxy thing is if they just lean really fucking heavy into like democracy is it. Like this is all that's left.
Yeah.
So the Earth is just one fucking like universal.
Well, it's super Earth, so yeah,
utopia, quote unquote.
Yeah.
So if they lean heavy into that, and just like, fuck, what was that movie where the robot was like, "Congratulations, you're being rescued. Do not resist." Like go that route.
What was it?
Yeah. No, they'll have to. It'll have to be basically one gigantic satire.
Yes,
it has to be.
Yeah.
It almost feels like it would be best in the hands of like a resurrected Monty Python. Like it feels like Monty Python could. John Cleese needs to come back from the
Idiocracy.
Yeah,
I'd be okay with that.
Yeah, but it's because if they take it too seriously, they run the risk of almost becoming Halo and making making an ODST movie. So they can't take it too seriously. Otherwise, it's like, well, now you're Halo, which also would be good. But like, I don't know. A Helldivers movie is a very interesting choice. I feel like an old school style, like 15, 20 minute animated series would be better. Like there's a guy I watch on YouTube occasionally called Carbot. I don't know if you guys have seen his animations. He makes like very brief, like sub 1 minute animations. He does them for he's done them for Baldur's Gate 3 for his playthrough. He did like animations for that. He's done them for a bunch of games, and he did them for Helldivers, and they're very funny, very cute, just very quick. Like they encapsulate Helldivers in a perfect way that like if they could make that the movie, it would be perfect. But I don't know.
I don't know if they've clarified if it's live action or not. So that's one thing to consider.
Yeah. What I want to see that would be fucking perfect is, obviously you guys both play it, so you've seen those people that come up with theories of like Super Earth being responsible for like the bugs and the robot, the fucking robot retaliation, all that stuff.
Yeah.
Automatons. And then people respond to those and be like, "This sounds very treasonous of you," and I'm reporting you to the Super Earth fucking department or whatever. I want to see a scene where someone is just fucking just in the background, just out of focus, like screaming some shit like that, and like the lieutenant just pulls out a giant fucking revolver and just like.
See, it's that kind of satire that is definitely necessary to happen.
They need to lean into that.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
So.
Yeah. again, this is going to be one massive satire. Just it doesn't take anything seriously, and it's just going to be.
But it's
They need
also
to bring
but it's got to be
back the guys that made the Idiocracy movie and the story and give them the ropes for it.
and it's
There you
also but like the part of it too that has to go with that like makes me hesitant, because if they do live action, it'll be super costly. It's got to be grotesque violence, just insane levels of violence where people are just like brutally slaughtered. And because that's part of the humor of Super Earth. Like, if there is not a scene where a Helldiver gets smashed by a drop pod, it's not a Helldivers movie.
Yes.
Like,
yeah, the level of friendly fire is pretty great.
yeah, like
Speaking of which, that Helldivers song that I shared months ago now, that guy has a whole album of Helldivers songs, and one of them's titled "Friendly Fire." It's pretty great. Actually.
Nice.
But yeah, it's. We'll see what happens. I'm excited for it because I love Helldivers. I just hope they do it right.
Right.
We'll see, more or less. Moving on from that to, I don't know what your guys' opinion on this is. I'm a little disappointed, but maybe it's because I just haven't bought the game yet. But somehow Star Citizen has managed to get its second best year of funding ever in 202024, and they are literally.
You don't know my stance on Star Citizen.
They are literally $1 million shy of having $750 million earned on this game.
Wow.
$750 million is how much they have earned in the past 11 years or something like that. I've been working on this game.
I'll sum up my opinion in like a 20-second thing. Ready? Screaming for 20 seconds straight.
Yes.
You can to this day go and spend $40,000 for a JPEG of a ship.
Yep.
That's my stance on the game.
And it's all thanks to Horse Armor.
It is the the OG NFT. Before NFTs and crypto were like even a thing that caught on. You could spend $40,000. You could go and take a fucking mortgage out on your house for a JPEG of a ship that might come out.
Oh man, it's got to be like, in terms of scams, there's like Firefest. And then there's Star Citizen way the fuck above way the fuck above.
So have either of you played the game?
They at least have a product.
Yeah,
I was gonna say it's like a fucking fantastic and the day before, but like they at least have a product that they've continued to support.
Yeah.
So,
and they have continuously updated this game. We have to give them that.
It's also not a game yet. It's really not. It's not.
They've added a campaign, but like the multiplayer side is literally just you pick up whatever fucking mission you want to do, and it's literally it's usually just like an escort mission or like an item delivery mission. And people have been asking for more.
It's basically that same game that Elite Dangerous. Basically, Elite Dangerous.
Yes.
Yeah, it's basically the same fucking game, except Elite Dangerous has a free to play mode,
and it's a full game. Like Elite Dangerous is done, right?
It's fleshed out. They're adding updates, so like you could walk around on planets now. Before you couldn't. You just like land your ship. Menu would pop up. You pick what you need to do, and then leave. Now you can actually get out of your ship and like get in combat.
Yeah,
and like interact with stores and shit like that.
From people that I've talked to that have. It does look good, and they've got some great voice acting behind it. I haven't touched it, but from the people that I've talked to that have, a lot of them are like, yeah, it's like a not as good Eve or not as good Elite Dangerous. Like it's just not there, and it's wild considering the amount of money that's gone into it. I think it's the highest budgeted game ever.
Have you looked into some of the
handles
behind the guy who founded this show, Star Citizen? And he made his first $1 billion. He had like selling gambling and hookers and blow.
Nice. True rock and roll star there.
Hearing that story?
No,
I'm pretty sure there's like old articles from like way back in the day.
Wow. Nice.
The $1 billion, and he's just like, I'm gonna go to Vegas. He went to Vegas.
A man went to Vegas.
So it's actually not the most expensive game ever made. That actually belongs to Genshin Impact.
What?
They've put over $900 million into that game.
Wow, that's surprising.
It is surprising. It makes me wonder where their nuclear fission.
Yeah, I was gonna say, where are they at with that?
Where they at? I haven't heard anything new since the last time we talked about it.
I keep forgetting they're doing that, just like on the side. It's like, this is an extra little side gig.
Yeah,
right.
Like we're just trying to create perpetual energy on the side. You know, we make this gotcha game, but we're trying to create this perpetual energy. Fucking wild. Fucking wild.
It is. I mean, they actually managed to get it turned on and produce more energy than it took to keep it on.
Yeah.
So that was cool.
That's progress.
Yeah, that right? Actually, what's really funny is that hit the news over here, but none of them mentioned that it was from a fucking game developer.
Right.
Yep.
To be fair, I don't believe they're doing it by themselves. I think
they're just funding it, from what I know. But still,
no. I fully believe it's some random fucking trolls in a basement that happen to also have like degrees in like space engineering and physiology and like all this shit. And they're just like.
It's some lighting engineer that's working in UE5 over here, and then just turns over here and starts doing insane levels of physics and coding for fucking super collider. Just like, this lighting's off a little bit. Let me fix those God rays over here and the particle effects when that light hits. All right, now back over.
Well, speaking of people you don't want to have nuclear capabilities, Russia is actually trying to make their own homegrown competitors to the PlayStation 5 and Series consoles. And they've basically come out and said they suck and they can't do it. They're doing it because they tariffs basically.
Yeah,
it's
fair.
too expensive.
Okay.
So they're like, let's make our own, and they're like, well, never mind, these suck. So
they've kind of had a history doing this, but I think they actually still make them. But there's a company over there that makes clone consoles. They have like 3 fucking games. Because they're first party titles, and then they tried to like bring on other developers to make games for this, and they were all just like, okay, but what's the catch? Because you guys are like super like anti-Western, anti-freedom type shit. So like, what can we develop for you that falls under your
rules
approval?
And guidelines,
What can I put on your console that won't get me killed as the CEO of a company?
That's a weird conversation to have.
Right? I mean, it's not wrong. Yeah. I mean, they're just posting shit online is going to get you thrown in jail over there, but that's also spreading to lots of other places, sadly.
Yeah.
Anyways.
How did you end up saving any of this for our Patreon side? Do we have a cutoff point for the Patreon side?
Yeah, I've got a few things we can talk about over there.
Okay.
I got a couple more before we get to there, though.
Cool.
Rumor has it that the company, I'm trying to remember what they worked on. Right. Hold on, I had this pulled up. There's a company, Implicit Conversions. Good Lord, Implicit Conversions. They've worked specifically with Sony, and they've brought some classic games to the modern consoles. And they have recently, I think they had a patent or something along those lines. They updated the studio roadmap. That's what it was, and it references PlayStation 3 games directly, using some sort of in-house quote syrup engine. But basically, we might very well see PlayStation 3 emulation come to the PlayStation 5, and if not the PS5, then maybe they're working on it. But
I wouldn't be surprised if I can. Sorry, I was going to say I wouldn't be surprised if I guess your last hot fire news topic, because I have something I want to add on to that patent thing. But I'll let you finish first.
Okay. Basically, just that they're working on an in-house engine, and I mean, just the very fact that PlayStation 3 emulation is becoming quite popular on PCs, like it just makes sense that Sony would want this. Honestly, I predicted that this was going to come to PlayStation 5 within like the first couple of years, and the fact that it hasn't is a little sad because I have so many games over there that I would love to throw in. But I mean, maybe if I have to wait till the PlayStation 6, that's fine.
I still have my jailbroke PS3 that has like 2 terabytes. Yeah, 2 terabytes of games. I think I have the Deadpool game on there too. I'm pretty sure I do.
You do.
Yeah.
I believe you said you did.
Yeah. So I've got the majority of the library of like other than sports games that come out every year. I've got a ton of them across 2 terabytes of PS3 hard drives. Great games. It'd be great to see them resurrected because they're great.
Yeah. I especially want to see a Deadpool remaster. I think of all the like old era games that just
make a
didn't
new
really have like a
just make a new one. It's not as good as it's not that great.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. I loved it, but I also kind of like went into it expecting it to just be like over the top and like cringy for no reason.
Nolan North did a great job. Just it's pretty mid.
Yep.
To expand on what Tim was saying with the PS3 thing, I forget if it was Sony execs or just some like people that are part of that corner of Sony's development team they confirmed that Sony does want to go back and like remaster a good
games.
chunk of their PS3 library, and Infamous, Jack and Daxter, and I think one other PS3 era game that was super popular, Sly Cooper, were top 3 pick of not really an estimation, but kind of or a guess, but kind of like a prediction of they're going to pick one of those 3 to start and then go based on how those perform. I would love to see Infamous 1 through 1, 2, and
1 and 2.
Okay, but there's
Blood, whatever the DLC is.
There's only one major problem with this. There's no Tenchu on the PS3, so they're going to have to go back a little bit further.
You're going to tell me that I can't sit here and shit on Ubisoft for 10 minutes over Heartland. And every single time someone brings up anything, you're just like, it's not Tenchu, I don't want it.
See, here's the thing.
Let me throw this in here. This was not in my quickfire news. However, Sony now is a majority stakeholder in Katakawa, which owns From Software, which owns Tenchu. So maybe we'll get the Tenchu that was Xbox 360 on PlayStation 5, and it'll be a big fat fuck you to Xbox.
That'd be pretty cool.
You just all the stars are aligning, Russ. You just need to make a blood sacrifice, and it will happen.
Show me who. Point me the way. Let me hold on. Let me go buy that Acer Nitro, so I've got my weapon with me, and I'll just bludgeon them to death. No, I get to do the Tenchu thing because mine takes 3 seconds. You'll eat up a whole episode ranting about Heartland.
Yeah, I can go on forever.
Yep.
Anyways, moving on.
All right.
Yeah, we're already going on forever. Fucking move on.
I'll go ahead and make this the last one for the free side. And this is just going to be a big I told you so, more or less. And it's more of a we told you so.
Sure.
Rumors continue to say, and this actually is coming from quite a few people. It's coming from leaks. It's coming from credible news websites and a whole bunch of other people, as well as pretty much Microsoft themselves, as well as fanboys that were so super against Xbox games coming to PlayStation and Nintendo. But at this point, we're starting to hear which games are coming next to PlayStation and or Nintendo, and we're looking at the likes of Halo Master Chief Collection, the Gears of War 1 remaster that recently came out, Hellblade 2, that Civilization style game that they've got, or no, I'm not sorry, not Civilization, the Age of Empires, the Age of Anthology, that one is those are the next 4 that everyone's expecting. Of course, other than Indiana Jones, since we already know about that one.
Man,
but more or less,
Halo better come
and
and better have crossplay. That would be so fucking great.
If it doesn't, that would be a little strange. Given Microsoft's direction. But imagine Master Chief Collection on the PlayStation 5 and the Switch 2. It would just absolutely explode. There'd be so many new players so quickly.
Yeah. The shitty thing is with the crossplay thing is like 9 times out of 10 when it's not crossplay between like PS5 or PS4 and Xbox or PlayStation and PC, it's because of PlayStation.
Yeah. It has been in the past. Yep, it has been in the past.
Yeah, not anymore. The past several years, PlayStation just says, go ahead, do whatever you want.
Yeah.
Okay.
It has been that way recently, which is why we're seeing more of it. But in the past, like the PS4 and PS3 era, the majority of it was Sony saying, no, thank you. But I think a lot of that was they didn't have the infrastructure because in the PS3 era, they didn't charge for PlayStation Network. So it was things like that.
They only charged towards like the end of that era.
Yeah.
They had
it was
that charged to PS3.
Yeah.
Yeah, I believe it was the end of the PlayStation 4 era where they basically just said, "Okay, fine, make your games crossplay. Who cares? We don't give a shit anymore."
Yep. So, well, does that wrap it up for us tonight?
That is the last of our free side. Yes.
Perfect. Thank you, everyone, for joining us and coming back for another year of the CoinDrop podcast. I cannot wait for an entire whole calendar year of doing this podcast again, starting it all over again. New tech, new games. Just a ton of greatness ahead of us. There is so much content to come. Thank you.
We've had a great year of games in 2024, and 2025 is looking like it might be better.
Yeah.
So we've got a lot to talk about.
Yeah. Oh god, dude, so many games. I don't
Especially
know how I'm affording them all.
Movie and TV show and anime adaptation
right?
and shit like that.
Secret Level alone.
Really
we got to talk about Secret Level over on the podcast on the Patreon because it's so good.
Absolutely.
So thanks everybody for watching. We will see you next week. And just one more quick reminder: February, our episode for that month will be streamed on Facebook. We are leaving Twitch, so we'll see you here 2 more times. And that's going to be goodbye for Twitch. So thanks, everyone. Tim, final thoughts, final words.
Yeah. Tell your mom, who hasn't heard from me in a while, that I said hello.
Have a great night, everyone.